Yeah, okay, cool. So now, mm, when we're talking about perfect competition, really, this is a type of market structure where there are many buyers and many sellers, and you find that everybody is selling an identical product, and the firms are price takers. Okay, so when we say there are many sellers and many buyers, I believe it is self-explanatory. There are just many buyers and many sellers. So you find that the number of firms selling one commodity, an identical product, and because everybody is selling the same product, you find that firms have no market power. Firms have to get the price as it is determined by the market. So firms are what we call price takers under perfect competition. Okay, the market price is not determined by the firms, but the market price is determined by the market. And by the market we mean the two forces of demand and supply determine the price. So depending on how the demand side and the supply side is, you may find that the price is just going to be determined by the intersection of demand and supply. So firms will just have to take that price as given. Okay, firms will just take that price as given. Yes, so firms will just take the price as given. Okay, and then because these firms are producing the same product, it is difficult for firm A to increase its price, because the moment firm A increases its price, consumers have what we call perfect information. So consumers will realize that firm A has increased the price for the same product which I can get from firm B. Therefore, the moment firm A increases the price, consumers will buy from firm B, meaning that firm A will just be kicked out of the market. So to avoid this, firms just charge the same price. So the price is uniform under perfect competition. And then the perfect opposite of perfect competition is monopoly, where there is only one seller. Okay, and because there is only one seller, this guy has got the power to charge his own price because he doesn't have competition. He's the only guy in the industry. All right. Maybe just for the sake of giving examples, an example of a perfectly competitive market is a market for, let's say, tomato. Or, yeah, let's say when you go to Soweto, whatever happens there happens under the umbrella of perfect competition, because you find that everybody is selling tomato. Okay, and everybody is selling, let's say, rice. Even if it's Nakonde or whatever it is, the key is that it's rice, right? Yeah, unless if you try to bring in all those arguments. But a very good example should be for tomato. Everybody is selling tomato. And if I go to seller A, I find that the price is on the higher side compared to seller B, I'll just go to seller B and buy more, and buy actually everything from seller B and buy nothing from seller A. So that is an example of perfect competition. And an example of monopoly in our Zambian situation is Zesco. Zesco is monopoly because we cannot compare Zesco to Copperbelt Energy. Yeah? So Zesco is the key, is the guy. Every time Zesco increases those rates, yes, we're going to complain, but at the end of the day, we're still going to go back to Zesco and buy units from Zesco. Moreover, we are only connected to Zesco. So Zesco in this case is a monopoly. Zesco is the only seller, the only supplier of power really in Zambia, because we may find that only 4% of the Zambian population uses solar. So it means that the remaining 96% rely on Zesco. So Zesco has got this huge market share. So because of this, Zesco is a monopoly, and since it's a monopoly, it can charge its own price. Okay, it can charge its own price. So in this case, Zesco is considered to be a price maker because it's this fame that makes the price. Okay, and then there's what we call monopolistic competition. So here, just like under private competition, there are to some extent many firms, okay, and there is also freedom of entry into the industry, but each firm produces what we call a differentiated product, and because they're producing somewhat differentiated product, chances are so high that they have some degree of some degree of market, or they have some power over the price that they charge. Okay, so there are many there are many sellers in this particular type of market. Okay, there are many sellers, and there is also what we call freedom of entry, meaning that you can enter at any time. There are no restrictions. You can enter at any time. There are no what we call industry restrictions. You can enter into this market, start selling that product, as long as your product is differentiated from your neighbors. So because I am selling a product that is somewhat differentiated from what my neighbor is selling, to some extent I have some market power. I can try to play around with the price a bit, of course. So each firm, so the key with monopolistic competition is that the product is differentiated. So this differentiability can come from maybe the nature of the product itself. Okay, maybe it can also come from quality. Okay, because the key is I want to make my product different from the other guy. Okay, and I usually give an example of toothpaste. Toothpaste is still toothpaste, but there's Colgate, there's whatever it is called, the other ones. But the key is it's Colgate. It's toothpaste. So everyone is trying to differentiate their own. Everybody is trying to differentiate their own. So as you can see, there are many firms that are producing toothpaste. Okay, and because Colgate believes that they are the best guys, you may find that if you go to ShopRite, the price for Colgate is on the higher side compared to whatever dental name it is, the other one. You see, so that's why I'm saying that because they produce a somewhat differentiated product, they have some control over price. Okay, they have
Mr. Longo.
Yes, madam.
These car manufacturers, can we categorize them under monopolistic competition?
Which ones?
The manufacturers of cars, the Toyotas, blah blah. Where can they fall under?
Yeah, I think they can fall under monopolistic. They can still fall under monopolistic competition. Yes, because you may find that Jeep, a car is a car though, but Jeep, they have got their own price. Toyota, they have got their own price. Benz, their own price. So in short, they are trying by all means to differentiate their products. And actually, having a lot of sellers is good because this increases efficiency and quality. Yeah, because yes, a car is a car, but when you look at the quality of a Benz and quality of Toyota, let's say, Toyota, you may find that to some extent Benz is better than Toyota. So in short, they try to differentiate their products. So yes, it can start from the name itself, the branding and all those things, but at the end of the day, really, they try to differentiate their products, right? Yeah, so it's true they can fall under monopolistic competition. And then another type of market structure is what we call oligopoly. Now, here is what drama is, because you find that there are few firms Yeah, there are few enough firms to enable what we call barriers to be created against the entry of new firms. In short, under oligopoly, just like under monopoly, there are what we call barriers to entry. So in an oligopolistic market, it's somewhat difficult for new firms to enter the market. Why? Because you may find that the already existing firms have what we call made a collusion. Okay, they have colluded, and the collusion is a situation where, let's say, in this particular market, we are just the five of us. You know, there are few sellers, so the five of us, and in order to protect ourselves, we say, guys, let's come together. Can we start? Can we start? Or can we start introducing, or can we introduce what we call quotas, where we say, okay, since we're the five of us, the only amount of output that we can produce is 100 units, let's say, per month. So if we be producing 100 units, therefore it means that each one of us should be producing, let's say, 20 units. Okay, so from A, B, C, and E, they should be producing 20 units each. So we have colluded, we've made a collusion, and because we've made this collusion, it means that we even have power over the price. We can charge a uniform price. Okay, we can say, okay, in order for us to maximize profit, let's be all producing. Of course, each one of us should be producing 20 units, and each one of us must be charging, let's say, 20 kwacha per unit. Okay, so we've made a collusion. The key is with collusions, read the idea. One is to maximize profit, but the biggest reason is to protect ourselves from the entry of other guys, because we understand that if we allow the market to be open, every Jim and Jack will come, and this means that the market is going to be flooded, and the moment the market is flooded, our profits are going to be reduced. So to avoid this, can we collude? Okay, can we collude? Can we protect ourselves from the entry of competitors? All right, so this happens under oligopoly. And another important feature about oligopoly is that, you know, they promote anyway, yeah, so there's collusion. And one thing about collusion is that collusion does not, unless otherwise, but most firms that have colluded before, there is this tendency that at the end of the day they separate. The reason is simple. It's not always the case that you know, we are going to be of the same mind and nature. You know, like for instance, I'll give an example of OPEC. OPEC, that's a collusion. Okay, OPEC is a perfect collusion, and it's the only collusion that has been there for some time. A lot of them have failed to hold because you find that there's what we call cheating, where we agree that each one of us will be producing 20 units and we'll be charging the price of 20, but to find that I'll be like, but you know what, I can cheat. I can instead of producing 20, I can produce 30 so that I can make more profit. Okay, and instead of charging a price of let's say 20, I can increase the price to 25. You know, so you find that because of that, at the end of the day, even if agreements are signed, they usually fail. Okay, yeah, so that's another type of market structure. So now when we put monopolistic competition and oligopoly together, there's what we make what we call imperfect competition. Yeah.
Which example can we use here, Mr. Lung? Me, I remember well with the examples.
I see. Oh, for oligopoly, I usually give an example of these oil producing countries, where you find that those countries that, so in international trade there's what we call regional integration, where let us assume that all SADC member countries have got copper. Yeah, that's a very fine assumption, because SADC there's only Zambia, Congo, and yeah, these are the major guys. Anyway, but let us assume that SADC member countries are producing copper. So let's assume that in Zambia there's this company that is producing copper. In Congo there's another country that produces copper. In Zimbabwe there's another country that there's another company that is producing copper and exporting copper. So we say, okay, can we come together? Okay, can we come together? Of course, through regional integration, can we come together and create barriers so that there should be no any other company that can come in any of these countries to come and start producing copper? Okay, so really the aim is we are trying to protect ourselves from our market being flooded, right? Yeah. So well, a very good example I can give is that of oil producing countries, where we have seen the formation of OPEC. Really the aim was just to protect themselves, so those guys, like for instance what happened in which was that, anyway, there's a scenario that happened where those guys, actually it also contributed to the 2008 market crash, and it also contributed to not the one in 1930, no, yeah, but the 2008 market crash, where what happened was that these guys decided to become so strong about the price for, in short, they just increased the price of fuel. Okay, they just increased the price of fuel, and at the same time the world was already suffering from the crash, where countries were failing to balance. Economic growth of most countries was really limping and all those things. And then these guys pops up and say, well, now it's a time for us to increase the price. Okay, so with oligopoly, because there are few firms, they try to create barriers to entry. Really the aim is to protect themselves and also to maximize their profit. So yeah, a good example is OPEC that I can give. In Zambia, which firms can try to protect themselves? In Zambia, the prominent one is perfect competition and monopoly. Yeah, because if I decide to open my business today, moreover, there are no even patents in Zambia. That's the funny thing, right? Parkra is there, yes, but really and truly, they will not protect me. The only thing they will do is give me that certificate that, okay, go and start operating. But in developed countries, if I come up with an idea, I am protected by the law, and the law will give me this privilege to be producing this particular commodity for a given period of time, meaning that they're giving me market power. Okay, but in less developed countries this rarely happens unless that particular company is backed by the state, like Zesco. So the most prominent one in especially less developed countries, either it's monopoly or it's just perfect competition. Pante, everyone can come in, everyone can leave, those things. There's no order whatsoever. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is the introduction to market structure. We are really going to go into detail. Don't worry. We are going to go into detail. One thing I can tell you is that market structure is interesting, very interesting, because these are things that we can relate to. We see them every day. Yeah. So it's really interesting. I believe that is okay so far. I believe it's okay so far.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so what exactly do we pay attention to every time we're talking about the degree of market power of firms, or what gives power for a firm to either set the price or become this good guy or become this bad guy in the market? In short, what are some of the factors that determine the degree of market power of firms? So market power really is the power for a firm to determine their own price, those things, create barriers. Yeah. So what gives these firms this power to be doing all such things, right? Yeah. So really, market structure is determined by the degree of competition amongst those individuals present in this particular market. So the degree of competition will really define the nature of market structure that is existing in such a market, right? Yeah. So but this competition depends on a number of factors. So we are saying that the primary determinant is is competition, right? Competition amongst the players. If there's too much competition, that will mean that in that particular market, or it will mean that there is a particular market structure that can be defined from that particular type of market where there is too much competition. And then if you have got this particular, because it's obvious that if there's too much competition, it's already perfect competition, right? But if you have this type of market structure where there's no competition whatsoever, there's just this prominent guy who can do anything at any time, we know already that is monopoly. Okay, so this competition depends on, one, the number of firms in the industry. How many firms are operating in this particular industry? So competition depends on the number of firms operating in that particular industry, right? So the more firms you have, the higher the level of competition, because everyone will be fighting for the buyer. You want to sell and you are all fighting for the same buyer, right? Also, freedom of entry will determine the level of competition. If there are barriers to entry, it's obvious that there'll be less competition. And collusion really can only take place if there are few members that are operating in that particular industry. Because if there are few, it's easy for those few to come together and decide and agree on the price and quantity that can be produced, right? But if, let's assume that there are 200 firms, even if you call for that particular meeting, it's obvious that there will be the Judases, that will just be there for the sake of being there, when in actual sense they're just there to just promote their own agendas. Yeah. Also, the nature of the product will also determine the level of competition that is existing in a particular market, right? Because if we are producing an identical product, you can imagine, let's say that we are the 100 of us and we are producing the same product. It's obvious that I want to sell mine, you want to sell yours, the other one wants to sell his. Yeah. But assuming that there's just a monopoly, I mean, why should there be competition? I'm the only one, so I don't have any competitor. So the nature of the product determines the level of competition that is going to exist in a particular market, right? Yeah. So really, market concentration is not part of undergrad, but for the sake of knowledge, every time we're talking about the degree of competition, if sometimes, or we say that the degree of competition is measured by what we call concentration ratios, but don't worry about concentration ratios. These are some very funny ratios which can only I've really I've handled these with the other guys, these guys doing my masters and all those things. That's why I saw concentration ratios in one of their assignments. But for us undergrads, don't worry about the concentration ratios. The only thing you can know is that for now is that this thing called the degree of competition can be measured using concentration ratios, right? Where we look at the percentage of the market held by the largest few firms. Okay, so we'll look at, okay, Zesco, what is the market share of Zesco, and what is the market share of Copperbelt Energy. Yeah, but that is beyond the scope of this particular course. So for now, the only thing that we should pay attention to, we should be able to define market structure. We should be able to talk about the four market structures. We should be able briefly, because we've just looked at this briefly, so we must be able to briefly explain what perfect competition is, what monopoly is, what oligopoly is, those things. Yeah, and also to some extent to talk about the characteristics and all those things. Yeah, that's okay for us. Now let us start talking about these things in detail. Okay, in detail. So we're going to start with perfect competition, because this is what most of us are familiar with, and we see this happening almost every day. And it's because of not having patents, and not having like rights reserved and all those things, that we have seen Ulendo, slowly but sure, Ulendo is being kicked out of the market because of Yango. So the guys came, boom, they're now taking over the market. Why? Because there are no barriers to entry. Okay. It's more like it's a perfectly competitive market for these guys. So yeah, Ulendo was there trying to monopolize the market at some point, charging somewhat funny fares, and then Yango comes, boom, taking over everything. Yeah, their prices as low as 20 kwacha. You can imagine. Yeah. So can we talk about perfect competition now? So we have defined perfect competition, that this is the kind of market structure where there are many sellers, many buyers. The sellers are price takers, because the price is determined by the forces of demand and supply. So the sellers have got no choice but to just get that particular price that has been determined by the market. Yeah. So because each firm has a very small fraction, okay, in short, that small firm, that particular seller that you're going to see, is just but this tiny part of the whole market. So because of that, firms are price takers. They just take the price as given. They have got no power to change the price whatsoever. Okay, they just get the price as given, just like that. You have got no choice but to sell at the prevailing market price, right? So that is the first assumption of of perfect competition, that firms are price takers. So firms are price takers. Why are they price takers? They are price takers because they really, they have no power whatsoever to influence market variables. You are just a small matambo. You cannot do anything to the market. Whether you leave or you don't leave, there will be no change whatsoever. No one is going to feel your impact. So what do? Just get the price as given and sell at that particular price. So in that case, I'm going to be a price taker. Okay. The second thing is that there is complete freedom of entry into the industry. Okay. There is total freedom of entry, and this is what we saw with the Ulendo thing and Yango. So the guys came in, they took over the market. Really and truly, they just took over the market. I doubt if Ulendo has got customers, unless those loyal customers. But otherwise, some of us that wants to maximize our money, we go for Viango. Okay, so there's complete freedom of entry into the industry. Okay, so that is another assumption of perfect competition, right? That I can enter the market at any time. If I want today, I can just wake up and say I'm going to start selling tomato. I'll just go and order tomato, tantika, and expect a customer to come and buy. You know, no one is going to ask me anything. All right. Then firms produce an identical, or what we call a homogeneous product. So the product that I'll be selling is the same product that the other guy will be selling. And I mean, this is common. You go to Soweto, go to Comesa Market. Even if, if for instance I'm looking for Jordans, I'll go to this shop, I'll find Jordans. I'll go to this shop, I'll still find Jordans. I go that, I'll still find Jordans. So to some extent, it's more like these guys are selling, an identical product. Therefore, if I go to shop A and I find that Jordans are at 650, I go to the other shop, I find that actually they're selling Jordans at 300. As a rational consumer, unless if you just want to to be critical, you go for the 300, unless otherwise. Okay, why? Because the product is homogeneous. That's the same. It's just the same. Yeah. So that's an issue with perfect competition. And then there's this very funny assumption that there is perfect knowledge. This assumption is very funny, because what it assumes is that you as producers, you have perfect knowledge of the price, the cost, the technology, and all the opportunities that may arise in the market. You know that if I do this, this is going to happen. Like in short, information is on your fingertips. You know that this is what happened, and because this happened, this is going to happen, and all that thing, which is not really the case in most cases. Because we find that even under perfect competition, people still make losses. If they make losses, why are they making losses when there's this assumption that there's perfect knowledge? You know those things. Anyway, sometimes economics is funny. Especially under assumptions. So with perfect knowledge, this assumption assumes that producers they know everything. They know that there's this opportunity here, I need to take it, and for me to take it, I'm supposed to do this and that. Consumers, on the other hand, they also have perfect knowledge about prices. They know that if I go in shop A, prices are like this. If I go to ShopRite, prices are like this. If I go to Cheers, prices are like this. And because prices are like this, I should go to either ShopRite or Cheers. They know they've got perfect knowledge. The other assumption is that consumers know about quality, which is not usually the case, because if we all know about quality, there'd have been no one wearing counterfeit shoes somewhere. Because if I know quality, why would I go for a shoe which is not Jordan, but I'm thinking they're Jordans? I'm even bouncing on the road when actually it's not Jordans. Really. So the issue is that consumers know about quality. They also know about the prices. They also know about the availability of products. So we know that I can get Jordans from this shop. I know that I can get Jordans from that particular shop, right? So these are some of the very funny assumptions. Some of them make sense, some of them they don't make sense. Like practically they don't make sense, especially the one with perfect knowledge. Doesn't make sense to some extent. But anyway, such is such. Economics is just like that. Sometimes we take it as given. Now, the other one that is really not that much influential is that of rationality. And the assumption is that consumers love to buy cheap things, but they want those cheap things to be the best quality. Like you are rational. A rational consumer is someone who really tries to be to derive the highest level of utility from consuming something. Yeah, you want to derive the best utility from your money. You want to derive the best utility from your clothes. You want to derive the best utility from your everything. You are rational. So there is this assumption about rationality, that consumers want to get the cheapest, but those cheapest should be of good quality, which is usually not the case, right? Cheap is expensive. You get the cheapest, tomorrow you go back and get another fake pair of Jordans because you decided to get the cheaper one. Yeah, really. So because of all these assumptions that we have made, that there are price takers, there are a lot of there are a lot of consumers. At the same time, there are a lot of sellers. You find that firms are forced to pick the price that has been determined by the market. In short, firms have got no market power whatsoever. So it means that the forces of demand and supply, the forces of demand and supply will determine the price and also the equilibrium quantity that the industry can sell. In short, if in the industry it's been determined that the price should be P1, so the market has determined to say the price for Jordans must be let's say 50 kwacha, assuming that the whole market is selling poor quality Jordans. One day they are torn, done. So 50 kwacha, it means that every seller will be forced to sell their Jordans at 50 kwacha. Why? Because if they try to increase the price, no one is going to buy from them. And if they try to reduce the price, yes, they're going to sell, but at a lower price, meaning that they're not maximizing their revenue. Therefore, they are not going to maximize their profit, right? So for you to maximize the profit, you'll be forced to charge even your product, no matter the quality. You'll be forced to charge your product at the same price that has been determined by the market. So in short, the price that has been determined by the market will be the same price that the firm is going to pick. Therefore, because of this, price is fixed throughout. No wonder we have this horizontal line. So this is just telling us that, well, as a firm, I'm going to pick this price that has been determined by the market. I do not have any power to either increase it or reduce it. You have the power to reduce, because this depends on you.
Mr. Lungu,
Yes, madam.
You are behind on the slide. You're showing us something else.
I'm
Beyond the
behind.
chapter.
Okay, that's really sad. It could be my internet. Anyone else who is observing the same? Mr. Piri, does the same apply to you?
No, I'm able to see clearly.
Yes, madam, it could be your internet. Let me try. Mr. Msonda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can get you.
And how are the slides? Are they lagging?
No, on my side it's also okay.
Okay. So what you can do, madam, you can just try to log out and log in. Sometimes that solves the problem.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, so I was saying that the price is going to be determined by the market, and you as a seller, you have no choice but to take the price as given. You'll be forced to sell at that particular price that has been determined by the market. So now, because of this fact, due to the fact that you get the price as given, demand is going to be determined. The demand for your product is going to be determined at the same price. Your demand is going to be determined at the same price Which price? The price that has been set by the market. It means that whatever output that you're going to produce, okay, the revenue that you're going to get will just be equal to the price that you're selling at. Okay, so this means that because the price is the same throughout, demand is going to be determined at the same price, and it means that, well, marginal revenue, okay, and the marginal revenue is just the change in total revenue due to that extra, unit of output that you sold, right? So since the price is the same, check, the price is still 50 kwacha. Even if I sell another product, I'll still get the same 50 kwacha. You see that, right? So it means that that particular price, okay, so that's too much. So it means that price will equal demand, which will equal marginal revenue, and it will also equal your average revenue as a firm. This is the reason why really operating under perfect competition is not good. Yeah, it's not good, because you find that you sell at 50 kwacha, at this same 50 kwacha, your demand is going to be determined at this same 50 kwacha. Okay, and even your marginal revenue, you can imagine that, because we've said that by definition, marginal revenue is the marginal revenue is nothing but the change, the change in total revenue due to change in output, right? So in this case, we're saying that, yeah, change in output, and this output is the one that you've sold. So it's more like this change in total revenue as a result of the change in that extra unit of output, or as a result of this extra unit of output that you've sold, is the same throughout. You can imagine that. You sell an extra pair of shoes, you still get the same 50 kwacha, because that is the only money that can come in the business, because you've sold it at 50 kwacha. You sell another one, you still get the 50 kwacha as your marginal revenue. So in short, because you do not have this power to change the price, you are forced to because you do not have this power to change the price, your price will be equal to your marginal revenue, which should be equal to your average revenue, right? And ultimately, your demand is going to be determined at this particular price. And because of that, you find that under perfect competition, our price curve, because standard price is there. Okay? So the price curve is going to equal marginal revenue, and at the same time is also equal our average revenue, okay, and it's also going to equal our demand, meaning that because the price, remember, this price is coming from the industry, okay, this price is coming from the industry, there's nothing that you can do except selling at this particular price, okay, and this would mean that your marginal revenue will be equal to the price, your average revenue will be equal to the price, demand is going to be determined at this particular price. So this is what happens under perfect competition. There's a lot, don't worry, there's a lot. Okay, so as usual, going to be as slow, but because the key is understanding. We still have time, right? We still have time. 9:01 out of 29 minutes. Yeah, so far, if at all there are questions, we can raise them. Before we forge ahead. We can raise the questions.
I wanted to know on the supply and demand curve, the way they are drawn in that graph. Would I be wrong if I drew the straight lines like we always do?
No, you won't be wrong. You're not
Okay.
wrong. Yeah. Because we understand that we understand that ultimately the demand curve has to be downward sloping, the supply curve has to be upward sloping, right? Yeah. So really, even if you do these ones, you still get your 4 marks. Okay. Okay, now let's try to get more and more deep into this nice discussion, right? Yeah, so I think last time I defined the short run and the long run, so those things are now coming back, and we said that the short run really is just a time period where at least one of the factors of production is fixed, and the long run is a production period where all factors of production are variable. So we're saying that under the short run, in perfect competition, okay, like, check, really the short run under perfect competition is more like a time period where there are just few firms, okay, and let us not forget that at the end of the day, perfect competition is defined as a market structure where there are many sellers, right? But we're saying that the short run is a time period where there are only few firms. What is the reason? If I come up with, let's say, a new idea today, let's say an idea about, or the easiest way of reaching your next destination, let's say I come up with just a different type of transport, right? Yeah, except witchcraft. Yeah, so assuming that there's just this new certain type of transport that I've invented, and remember, everyone can enter this market at any time, right? In the short period of time, in the short run, will be very few of us. Will be the few of us in this particular market, right? But as time, as time passes, other people are going to notice that these guys are making profit in this particular thing. Can we join as well? So you find that in the short run there are few sellers, but as time passes, you find that because there are no barriers to entry, other players will come in, okay? Other players will come in, and at the end of the day, so this has just reminded me to talk about what we call the normal and the supernormal profit. Normal profit is what we get at equilibrium, what we get at equilibrium. And abnormal profit, this is where you find that your profits are more on the positive side. It's abnormal, and this usually happens when you are the only dude in the game, or very few of you make what we call supernormal profits. But as other firms come in, actually it is the same supernormal profit that attracts other firms to enter the market. So as the number of firms is increasing, that supernormal profit is competed away. You find that we start sharing the same supernormal profits, so we end up, in the long run, all of us will end up making just the normal profit. We'll just be making the normal profit. Okay, so the short run under perfect competition is just a time period during which there is little, or or let me just say there are few new firms that are entering the industry. Okay, so because don't forget that price is determined by demand and supply. Okay, and at the end of the day, the level of output that we are going to produce will be determined by the market, of course, and this will be determined at a point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Because remember that even if we are 200, 300 of us in the so-called perfectly competitive market, we all aim to maximize our profit, right? And profit is maximized at a point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. meaning that the profit maximizing output is going to be determined by this equality. My marginal revenue must equal my marginal cost for me to be maximizing my profit. Okay, yeah. So we also know that under perfect competition, let me go to this blank slide and illustrate something. So under perfect competition, we know that this is going to be my price, which is equal my marginal revenue, which is also equal my average revenue, right? And these guys face that nature of marginal cost. So we are saying that profit is going to be maximized at this level of output, where marginal cost curve is equal to marginal revenue. Okay, so in short, my Q star is going to be determined at a point where marginal revenue, which is this one, which is equal to price, so where my marginal revenue is equal my marginal cost. So we are saying that profit maximizing output will be determined at a point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Okay, so this is what happens under perfect competition. So now most of the analysis, let me just say 90% of the analysis under market structures really depends on calculations and graphs. So this is where the interesting part really comes in. So we have to do a lot of calculations, a lot of graphing and all those things, yeah. But yeah, let us not worry, we can do this. Okay, so yeah, this is what happens. So profit is maximized at a point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Okay, all right. Which is here. So output is determined by marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, since this is where the firm is going to maximize its profit or minimize its loss. Okay, so you need to know the amount of output to produce for your profit to be maximized. You also need to know the amount of output to produce for you to minimize the loss. Okay, so what I was trying to illustrate there is whatever is going on here. Okay, that really under perfect competition, price is going to equal demand, which is also going to equal average revenue and marginal revenue, right? And I think I need to be slow here. Yeah, so price, we have said that the price is determined by the market, one, and because the price is determined by the market and not by the firm is a price taker, right? And because of that, the price curve is horizontal, yeah, and this price curve is equal to demand, equal to average revenue, and equal to marginal revenue. And we have also said that profit or profit maximizing output is found or is determined at a point where marginal revenue curve, which is this same horizontal line, where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, which is at that particular point there. So at that particular point there, Q1 maximizes our profit. Okay, so Q1 is going to maximize our profit. So you know what they do? What they do is this. They'll just give us a function. So what they'll do is they'll give us a total cost function. Okay, after giving us a total cost function, they will then give us a price somewhere, just a price, and then ask us actually to get this Q1. So we know that by now we can maybe forget everything else except the fact that profit maximizing output is determined at the point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, because this is going to help us where we're going, right? So given such a scenario where we've just been given the total cost and price, and they're asking us to get, profit maximizing output, we know that profit is maximized at the point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and we know that for us to get the marginal revenue from the total cost, we're just going to differentiate the total cost function. So the moment we differentiate the total cost function, we know we're going to get the marginal cost. So we are saying that profit is maximized at a point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. But we also know that price under perfect competition is equal to marginal revenue. Therefore, it makes sense to say under perfect competition, profit maximizing output is determined at a point where marginal cost is equal to price. Okay, so don't get stranded in an exam saying that, okay, so where is marginal revenue? Okay, they have just given me the price. No, they have actually given you the marginal revenue, because under perfect competition, price is equal to marginal revenue. Actually, to make things more complicated, they can give us average revenue instead. Okay, but we also know that under perfect competition, price is equal to average revenue, and it's also equal to marginal revenue, meaning that in an instance that we don't have price, we can either use average revenue or marginal cost. Or if we don't have marginal cost, we can use either price or average revenue. Okay, so please, let us always remember that. Okay, now when we look at this graph is showing us that, or this shaded part here, this is the profit for a perfectly competitive firm. Okay, so profit is the difference between our average cost, between our average cost and our marginal cost. So what you can see is this. I just want this topic to be perfect. Like, I really want you people to understand this topic, because it's really one of those important topics, especially in economics. In economics. So if you did micro, this should be nothing really, because this is coming from micro. So what I'm trying to say is, let me try to look for that empty. Okay, it's here. So what I'm trying to say is this. Under perfect competition, we have this case where, first of all, we know that this is price. It's also our marginal revenue, which is also our average revenue, right? And then we have marginal cost, curve, okay? And we know that at this point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, I'll get my Q star, which is the profit maximizing output, okay? And then I'll have my average cost curve. So the difference, or this distance between my marginal cost, which means this distance between there and here, this represents profit. Okay, so this represents profit under perfect competition. Okay, so the reason is simple. Look, we are saying that if I am selling at that particular price, okay, if I'm selling at that particular price, and the cost on average, okay, the cost is there, okay, so you are selling at this price. Let's call that price a 50, and as you are selling at a price of 50, on average the cost is, let's say, 20. Therefore, well, if we are selling each commodity at 50 kwacha, okay, and the cost side is 20. Therefore, the difference between the 50 and the 20 should constitute your profit as a perfectly competitive firm. Okay? So in short, if you're writing, you can write under perfect competition. Profit really is a difference between the price. Okay? Anyway, it's the same thing as saying profit is equal to total revenue. This thing is lagging. Total revenue minus total cost, right? Because if I'm selling at if I'm selling Q star units and I'm selling each at 50, it means that my total revenue, I like working with numbers, so let's replace this Q star with a number. That is going to make our analysis more easier to understand. So let's say the Q is 10 for simplicity's sake. So it means that my profit is going to equal this distance, the whole of it first of all, which is my price times quantity, because maybe this is the rectangle, so it's height times base. So it's the price, the 50 times the quantity. So 50 price times the quantity of 10, this is going to give me 500 minus the cost side. So I'm saying that the minimum point of average cost is there. Okay? So minus this side which I've shaded. Okay? So minus, so this side is also total cost will be the 20 times the 10. So minus 200. It therefore makes sense to say from this total I remove the shaded part, this fully shaded part. I'll end up with this part there as my profit. So this is the reason why under perfect competition we end up having that part as the profit, because it's the total revenue, which is the whole of this part, minus the cost side. So if I remove this shaded part here, I'll end up having this upper part, which is my profit. Okay? So in short, this is what this graph here is showing us. That, well, if the price is there and on average, which is the average cost, right? So on average, the cost is there. The difference between this whole lot of it minus the unshaded part, I should have that area as my profit. Why am I emphasizing? I'm emphasizing because sometimes they'll ask us to do the graphing. So we need to know how to come up with the graph for a profit maximizing firm under perfect competition. Okay, I know this might be a bit confusing, but well, it's nothing really. We can do this. So how is it going so far? Mr. Sinkala, are you there?
I'm here, sir. Now, I don't know whether it is my gadget. The volume has become low.
Or maybe it could be actually me. Okay. Mr. Misonda, how is the experience? Am I on the lower side?
No, on my side, you're just okay.
Mr. Sinkala, it could be your... Yeah, maybe it could be your gadget.
I think it is my gadget.
Okay. No, well, don't worry. I know I owe you about 3 unsent links for the recordings. Sorry, man, it's been hectic this side. It's something where you are bombarded with pressure from almost all the courses I tutor. So I'm supposed to mark, I'm supposed to enter, and all those things. So yeah. But anyway, first thing to do it tomorrow when I reach that side is just to upload all the videos and share the link. No, actually I uploaded one, the one for cost structure. I just need to send the link, so I'll send that one today since I already uploaded it. But the recording will be sent in our fashion, you know, the fashion. Yeah. Okay, so so maybe for today we can end here, and then tomorrow pick it up from here. So what we can do is between now and then we can just try to refresh on our own. We just try to find time to go through and all those things. So that, because if we don't understand, you know, the previous content, it will be difficult for us to understand whatever is coming ahead of us. So we need to, because it's more like a build up, right? So we need to first have this strong foundation. Yeah, then it need to be easier for us to understand the content that is ahead of us. Yeah. Okay, so end here and let's see if there are questions.